The college football semifinal is right around the corner, and we have a very unique pool of teams this time around. I actually really like 3 out of the 4 teams remaining in the field. So while Georgia can't be in the mix, unfortunately, I am happy with most of the teams that we have. So before we break down these games, please make sure that you like, comment, subscribe. It would mean a lot to me and this channel. But let's go ahead and get into it, starting with the game that I am most passionate about, and that's Ole Miss versus Miami. And I'll be upfront with you. I am a big Georgia fan. Ole Miss knocked out my team. But honestly, I am rooting for them the rest of the way. This Ole Miss team has been through a lot over the past few months. Coaching changes, nonstop noise, constant doubt, and yet they responded by beating Tulane, beating Georgia, and then putting themselves in a position to win the whole thing. So for my money, they have the most dangerous quarterback in the field. I've said that multiple times now. He can beat you with his arm. He can beat you when the play breaks down, and he is playing with a ton of confidence. So pair that with an elite, consistent running back, and suddenly this offense becomes incredibly hard to defend. And at this point, I am no longer worried about that staff situation. Whatever instability we thought that it would show up feels like it's not going to be an issue anymore. This team is locked in. Now, defensively, yes, I have my concerns. They are not perfect. But when you zoom out and look at the full picture, Ole Miss feels balanced, dangerous, and on fire. And that matters at this point in the season. So let's go ahead and talk about Miami for a little bit. There's no denying it. They have been on a bit of a tear. They arguably have the best line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball in the playoffs. That physicality has carried them past some really good teams. Messidor, Bain, that front can absolutely wreck games. But here's the problem for me. Miami is wildly inconsistent. They scored only 1 touchdown against A&M, and earlier in the season, I watched them lose to SMU and Louisville. Now, maybe they are a different team now than they were then. Maybe they're peaking at the right time. That's definitely possible, but I'm not fully sold on that. And it's maybe I'm just a hater, but A&M was clearly trending downwards when Miami played them, and Ohio State might not have been the juggernaut we all thought that they were. So the question becomes, how good is Miami actually? Or are they really just being propped up by a bit of timing and matchups? And I'll admit it, like I said, I am biased. I'm a known Miami hater, but even trying to be fair, I still just don't trust. I don't trust Carson Beck at quarterback. I don't trust Mario Cristobal as a game day coach. I don't trust the ACC as a whole. So we're going to compare that to Ole Miss, who's coming off maybe the best game of the season for them against Georgia, and they look confident, they look balanced, they're playing fast and aggressive, and if the game comes down to special teams, dude, I saw that kicker kick from like 50-plus multiple times. So that's going to matter in a type playoff game as well. So when I stack this matchup side by side, yes, Miami probably has the edge in the trenches, but Ole Miss, they've got the better quarterback, they've got the better skill players, they've got a more balanced offense, and they, I think, are the hotter team right now. So give me the Rebels. I will be hate watching the Canes the entire time, and I'm begging Ole Miss to not let me down. Give me Ole Miss to win it. All right, now let's talk about the rematch between Indiana and Oregon, because this one might be the most fascinating game of the entire playoffs. When these two teams met the first time, Indiana went on the road and won by 10 points. And it wasn't fluky, it wasn't lucky, they were clearly the better team that day. And I actually picked Indiana to win that first matchup, and they delivered emphatically. So if you were not an Indiana believer before, I really don't know how you aren't one now. Just look at what Indiana has done all season. They didn't just beat Alabama. They just embarrassed them in a way I honestly have never seen in my life. They also beat Ohio State. They beat Oregon. I think their resume speaks for itself. And what makes it crazier is that on paper, Indiana has been out-talented by almost every single team they play in those matchups. But that hasn't mattered at all. Why? Because Curt Cignetti might be the best coach in college football right now. What he is doing with that roster is honestly insane and almost impossible. Indiana is the most well-coached team and the most disciplined team in the country. They are balanced on both sides of the ball, and they just don't beat themselves. And you do not accidentally beat Indiana. They make you earn every single yard, every single first down, every single point. And that kind of team is brutal to play against. And on top of all that, they've got a Heisman-winning quarterback, productive running backs, high-level receivers, and a great line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. This is not a cute story anymore. This is a legitimate title contender. Now for Oregon, the challenge is pretty obvious. The first matchup made one thing very clear. Indiana was a better team. But to Oregon's credit, this is not the same Ducks team we saw earlier in the season. They've got healthier, they've improved, and yes, their roster is still better on paper. The question is whether that talent advantage actually shows up on the field this time, because it did not the first time. One of the biggest factors in that first game was Indiana's ability to pressure Dante Moore, who was struggling under pressure, and Indiana took full advantage of that. This time around, Moore looks a lot more comfortable in the pocket, and he looks a lot more confident, and he's just a better quarterback now than he was then. That's something definitely that we should watch, but the biggest question for me is Oregon's defense. They just shut out Texas Tech, and that caught my attention. Now, are they going to shut down Indiana? Definitely not. But can they limit them? Very, very possibly. And when you combine that with Oregon's speed, explosiveness on offense, the Ducks do present a very unique challenge for Indiana. That said, I am not falling into the trap of doubting Indiana again. So they're just too good. They're too disciplined and they're too well coached. And until further notice, Indiana is my front runner to win it all. So what they're doing right now just doesn't feel fluky or lucky. It doesn't feel like a matchup dependent type of thing. It feels sustainable. They made Alabama look helpless, like I said. They've beaten every style of team that you can throw at them, and I think they're going to do it again here. As good as Oregon looks, Indiana is operating on a level that I don't think anybody else is. So give me the Hoosiers. Indiana wins the rematch and punches their ticket to the national championship game against the Ole Miss Rebels. And that's all for this video, guys. Next time you see me will be after these games are over. I will be putting out a video reacting to both of these games and my prediction for the national championship game. See you all next time. Peace.